In today's episode of Comicstorian, we're going to be telling you the story of Task Force Z, a government-sanctioned zombie squad run by the Red Hood that is apparently in canon. You see, this is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites. I create a synopsis of your favorite storylines, telling you the bare bones information that you need so that you can go out and buy the issues yourself to get more context, or get the next issue and still know what's going on. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be covering a book that is apparently in canon known as Task Force Z, and to fully understand where this takes place in the DC timeline, well, let me explain that to you. In the DC universe right now, we had an event known as A-Day, in which the inmates at Arkham were mostly all killed due to a gas. It was pegged onto the Joker as being something that he did, but in fact he didn't, and we're exploring that storyline over in the Joker series. But back to Task Force Z. With all of the villains in Arkham now dead, and the technology to revive individuals from the dead, turning them into zombie-like individuals, the government decided to create Task Force Z, a zombie-sanctioned squad sent out to do the government's bidding. Kind of like the Suicide Squad, but they have more control over the zombies. And they got one individual to run this squad, begrudgingly. Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood. So while this is happening during Fear State, it's actually more of a side storyline featuring Jason dealing with the zombie squad while that whole thing is happening. So let's get into Task Force Z issues 1 and 2 right here at the Comicstorian channel. It was a dark night in Gotham as the Crazy Quilt runs for his life over the rooftops, screaming, "No! Get away from me! Don't eat me!" His pleas go silent, though, as Man-Bat shrieks, swooping down on him, mouth open, ready to bite. Crazy Quilt yells out, "No!" And he blasts a hole in Man-Bat's chest, sending the corpse of Man-Bat down to the streets below. Just as he thinks he's won, he's cracked in the head with a crowbar, and Red Hood tells him, "I'm gonna need you to step away from that ledge. I have a few questions." As Crazy Quilt is arguing that he will not go back to prison, Bane grabs him from behind, groaning. Crazy Quilt is shocked. "How? This isn't happening! You're supposed to be dead!" So Red Hood informs him, "If you don't answer my questions, Bane here is going to rip you in two. And that is only if Bane wants his little treat." Bane groans again, setting down Crazy Quilt, and Red Hood goes on telling him, "Okay, now let's talk about who you've been working for since you escaped from Arkham, what you're smuggling, and what the hell is up with your mustache." Man-Bat tries to swoop back in, and Red Hood just sighs, telling Bane to hold Man-Bat back. He turns radioing Central, telling them, "This is Field Leader. Target has been captured and needs a pickup. If you want him in one piece, you might want to hurry. I'm holding off the zombies." Later at Project Halperine headquarters, Red Hood stands in the decontamination shower, looking back asking, "Do you like to watch when people shower?" Dr. Shelley tells him that observation is part of her job, and if he's implying that she gets some sort of personal pleasure, she can assure him that she is more interested in the dead bodies. Besides, we need to make sure that you're clean since you've come in contact with Man-Bat's bodily fluids. The Lazarus resin that we use to keep the others operational shouldn't come in contact with living tissue. As Red Hood is pulling on his shirt, he tells her, "Right." And as he's leaving, he sees a peculiar woman sitting in one of the office rooms. He informs her that he doesn't think it's a good idea for her to be here, and she tells him that she is more than fine, but she appreciates his concern. He asks if they've met, and the woman tells him no, but she knows who he is. He may call her Ms. Hobart. Or Hannah, if he prefers. He tries to tell her that the area is for monsters. And after getting a little offended that he's not showing respect to a lady, she asks him, aren't those his teammates? He tells her that those are not his team, he's barely here on his own free will, and those people are barely alive. She tells him that while one might see a monster, another might see a soul struggling for redemption. Or does he believe that some souls are beyond redemption? Red Hood tells her that he has spent a lot more time thinking about that than most. And he thinks he knows the answer, but he really hopes that he is wrong. At that moment over the intercom, his handler, Crispin, tells him that he is needed elsewhere. Please leave Miss Hobart alone. They eventually make their way to the room where they're keeping Crazy Quilt, and they can see him through a two-way mirror chained up on the other side. They explain to Red Hood that they're not getting very much information from Crazy Quilt, and what ends up happening is they press a button allowing a hulking Arkham Knight to shuffle forward in her zombie state. Red Hood begins to panic, telling them to call off the Arkham Knight. She grabs a hold of Crazy Quilt's chains, opening up her mouth. And Red Hood begins to yell, "I will put down every monster in here and you if you don't stop this." Crazy Quilt informs everyone that he'll talk. "Just get this thing away from me!" Crispin tells Red Hood, "See? It works. Dr. Shelley, please make sure that Arkham Knight is standing down." Shelley holds out a few pieces of Lazarus resin candy, and Arkham Knight suddenly stops what she's doing and begins to shuffle towards the glass. Crispin turns to Jason. You want some advice? The sooner you stop thinking yourself as the brave hero in some fairy tale surrounded by evil monsters, the sooner you'll realize that this isn't that kind of story at all. We're all monsters here, but that doesn't mean we can't put them to good use. Now go suit up into the Red Hood outfit. You're going back out. Later, as Red Hood and his team arrive at their next location, Bloom steps out, stating, I just want to clarify, I'm not dead. This is allowing me to help rehabilitate myself in the eyes of the... But Red Hood tells him, I don't care, we have a job to do, and that is to find out what these people are smuggling. The group sneaks into the warehouse, and as Bloom looks through the crates, he tells them, This is curious. It is rather ironic to find the very drug that powers your undead teammates here, isn't it? The Lazarus resin? Unless. At that moment, Mr. Freeze shouts, What are you doing here? Are you here to steal from me? He charges in with his men, but Red Hood grabs one of his crowbars, telling Task Force Z, Take him down, and don't eat any of them. But as Freeze blasts Bane with his Ice Blast, the undead kind of hunt and kill on their own. And Red Hood tells him, No! We have to work as a team! Stop being zombies! Man-Bat then looks at Freeze lunging at him, but Freeze hits him with an Ice Blast. Man-Bat crashes to the ground, and then Freeze grabs Man-Bat's head, ripping it off of his frozen body, throwing it. The frozen head then hits Bane's frozen body, breaking that into 100 pieces. Bloom turns to Red Hood. This is going terribly. And Red Hood tells him, Yeah, get out of here or do something. So Bloom tells him that his abilities are greatly reduced with this power inhibitor that they've placed on him. Red Hood groans, telling Arkham Knight to go after Freeze, but as she turns, Freeze blasts her legs in place, freezing her there. Red Hood then yells, Fine! And he begins to charge forward, leaping into the air, cracking Freeze's helmet with his crowbar. Freeze knocks him away and then walks over to Red Hood. And he can hear him whispering something. Speak up, boy! I was saying, get closer and I'll... Using his crowbar, Red Hood slams it into the shelves above him, causing the boxes to topple over and land directly on Freeze. You stupid boy. Do you realize what this means with my suit cracked? The gas can be no longer contained. Congratulations on killing us both. How bad could it be? And that's when Freeze's suit explodes with a giant ice blast, freezing Red Hood right there. As he tries to move, he can feel his limbs slowing down and weakening. As he manages to get his helmet off, he calls out to Bloom asking, Are you there? Or are you two frozen? Suddenly he hears something clicking, and when he looks over, he sees Arkham Knight crawling towards him, ready to eat. Of course this is how it ends! Before long, there's the loud whumping sound of the Arkham Knight's hands digging into the snow, and they begin to get louder and louder. Red Hood calls out to Bloom, asking if he's there, and with no answer from Mr. Bloom, Crispin radios in asking what's going on. Red Hood yells, I need support on my position! But Crispin tells him that there is no support. He is with all of the operational agents. What is happening? Bane and Man-Bat are deader. Bloom took off. I'm frozen solid and Arkham Knight is about to eat me. Alright, you need to deal with Miss Arkham and go find Bloom, but make sure not to damage her brain. Red Hood manages to reach for his crowbar, shocking the Arkham Knight for a moment when he hears someone call to her. Bloom calls out. Bloom hasn't left. Please do not eat our leader. I have something better for you here. Bloom begins to throw out all of the Lazarus resin pills that they just found, and the second that the Arkham Knight sees them, she leaves Red Hood alone, crawling towards them. With Arkham Knight distracted, Bloom helps Red Hood out, or at least stands him up, and Red Hood asks where did Freeze go. Bloom tells him that Freeze got away. So what they should do is collect the pieces of their teammates and return to HQ. While waiting for extraction, the Arkham Knight, covered in Lazarus resin, calls out asking, What the hell just happened? And where are my legs? Later, back at the chop shop, Red Hood takes his decontamination shower, telling Crispin that there's no way that this can continue. What happened back there was a mess. As Red Hood reports to the lab, Crispin tells him that mistakes were made and they are being addressed. And that's why he is here. He has come to believe in the concept of redemption, not just his own, but his team. Red Hood asks, how is that possible when half of the team is dead? Again. As the doors slide open, he sees Dr. Shelley working on a completed Man-Bat, and Bane and Crispin tell him that he should know better than that. Dr. Shelley begins to get ready to stick Red Hood with a needle, but he grabs her arm, taking the needle. Wait, what are you doing? She informs him that it's going to heal him. So he smashes the syringe, telling her to never come near him with that again. As he's fighting with her, she informs him that he is a part of the experiment as well. But before anything else could come out of that, an individual begins to pass by him, and that's when he sees that it's Arkham Knight. Partially healed, partially recovered, but still slightly disfigured. She informs him that she can't promise that it won't happen again, but she will try her hardest. Jason asks, how is she okay? How is she recovering? And she informs him that the amount of Lazarus resin that it took to restore her legs also restored much of her vitality. It'll wear off though, so she's enjoying walking around with what time she has. And now that we've established that Jason is a part of the experiment and there is hope for our inmates, the Task Force Z is sent out on their next mission. They all head out on their next mission with the addition of Hannah Hobart. They all begin to walk into a theater with Hannah asking if this is where they're meeting their new teammate. And Red Hood informs her she is not on the team. As a matter of fact, who are they meeting? Crispin tells him he thought it would be a nice surprise. And as Redhead opens up the doors, he sees the Cobra cult risen from the dead. Hannah begins to whisper that perhaps they should leave, but Man-Bat screeches, lunging at the followers. Bloom leans over Red Hood, telling him, "I'm pretty sure we've been seen." Red Hood tells everyone to take them down, and a higher Lazarus resin dosed Bane looks at everyone, now kind of competent. "Is that the whole place?" And Red Hood tells him, "Yeah, until someone comes up with a better plan." Bane leaps in, ripping the followers apart, telling them, "Stand and fight like men." But as he speaks, his voice begins to digress as he begins to become more and more like a zombie again. He stomps on one of the men, but with using too much force, he rips the floor apart, tearing open a giant hole. More of the followers begin to surround Red Hood and the Arkham Knight, and Hannah yells out, "Turn on the lights!" Red Hood says there are too many in the way unless... Sorry about this. He takes out his crowbar, charging into them, slamming them into the pool of blood at his feet, electrocuting all of the followers and the Arkham Knight. He runs over to the lights, turning them back on. "I hope it was worth it." And the second that he does, Hannah begins to transform into a grotesque, undead-looking monster. As she flies around, slaughtering more of the followers, Red Hood is surprised. "What the hell?" And Arkham Knight says, "Did you not know, Jason? Hannah has lived in Arkham since before I was born. Hannah checked herself in decades ago before even my father was there. The monster keeps her from aging. It lives in the darkness and Hannah lives in the light. Too much of either one of those, and one of them takes control." As the last follower is killed, Arkham Knight says that they need to turn the lights on now. So Red Hood flips on the switch and the creature yells, "No!" as it turns back into Hannah. As Red Hood goes to help her up, Bloom calls out that they may have found their man, and everyone looks back to the coffin with the body of Deadshot in it. Red Hood radios back that they found the target. However, before he gets back to the base, they're going to have a little talk. They have a major problem, and it's... But before he could finish, there's a gunshot, and Red Hood falls to the ground. Crispin radios over, asking him to say that again. The signal is breaking up. "Did you find the new teammate?" And everyone looks back to see Deadshot sitting up in the coffin, holding the smoking gun that just shot Red Hood. And there you have it, the first two issues of Task Force Z, the new Red Hood book. At the moment, I like the idea of this, but I'm also iffy because if this is our new Red Hood book, it feels a little, how do I say not Red Hood? Red Hood leading this team of zombies, and he's got Arkham Knight that he's chatting with, and they're probably gonna have a thing going on, and I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of Task Force Z, I just don't know if I like the idea of Red Hood as a part of it. Also, does anyone really think Red Hood just died? I mean, we're literally in a book where everyone's getting revived by Lazarus resin. Why would we assume Red Hood just died? Like, this is not the book to try and fake us out, is all I'm saying. I hope you guys enjoyed this book. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we do our next video on Task Force Z or Fear State as a whole, in which Gotham has been lost and we're trying to figure out what's going on. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I'll see you next time right here.